In this video, I'm going to show you how to use the gradient tool in Photoshop step by step, even if you're a complete beginner. If you've ever wanted to create smooth color blends, dramatic lighting effects, or stylish background transitions, this tool is one of the easiest and most powerful ways to do it. And before we jump in, if this tutorial helps you out, make sure to hit like and subscribe for more Photoshop tips and editing guides. Alright, let's get started. First, select the gradient tool from the left toolbar. It looks like a rectangle fading from one color to another, and if you can't find it right away, you can simply press G on your keyboard. That will activate the tool instantly. Now, before you start painting a gradient across your image, I highly recommend creating a new blank layer. You can do that by pressing Ctrl plus Shift plus N on Windows or Command plus Option plus N on Mac. Using a separate layer keeps your gradient non-destructive, which means you can move it, edit it, or delete it later without affecting your original background image. Once the gradient tool is active, look up at the options bar at the very top of your screen. This is where you control how your gradient behaves. The first thing to check is the gradient fill mode. Make sure it is set to gradient, not classic gradient. The gradient mode gives you live editable controls, which makes adjustments much easier. Classic gradient, on the other hand, works more like a permanent pixel effect, so for most modern workflows, gradient is the better choice. Next, click the presets drop-down next to the color box. This opens a library of built-in gradient presets. You'll usually see folders like basics, blues, purples, and sunsets, depending on your Photoshop version. These presets are a fast way to get started, especially if you want to experiment with different moods and color combinations. You can pick one of the built-in options, or later on you can create your own custom gradient. After that, choose your gradient type. Photoshop gives you several different styles, and each one creates a very different look. Linear is the most common, and it fades in a straight line from point A to point B. Radial creates a circular fade that spreads outward from the center. Angle makes the colors sweep around in a counter-clockwise spiral. Reflected mirrors the gradient on both sides of your starting point, which is great for symmetrical designs. And diamond creates a fade that expands outward in a diamond shape. Choosing the right type depends on the effect you want, so it's worth trying a few of them. Now it's time to draw your gradient. Click anywhere on your canvas to set the starting point, then hold and drag your mouse to where you want the gradient to end and release. Photoshop will immediately render the colors across the line you drew. That line is often called the gradient widget, and it gives you a visual guide for the direction and spread of your blend. If you drag a short line, the transition between colors will be more concentrated and dramatic. If you drag a longer line, the blend becomes softer and spreads across a wider area. Here's a really useful tip. Hold Shift while dragging if you want the gradient to stay perfectly straight. That can lock it into horizontal, vertical, or 45-degree movement, which is especially helpful when you want a clean and precise result. Now comes one of the best parts of the Photoshop gradient tool, live editing right on the canvas. If the gradient doesn't look quite right, you do not have to start over. You can adjust it directly on screen. To move the entire gradient, simply click and drag the solid line itself. To change the angle, click and drag the circular endpoints until the direction looks correct. If you want to change one of the colors, double-click on any of the small circular color stops on the line. That opens the color picker, where you can choose a new color for that part of the gradient. You can also fine-tune the blend by dragging the little diamond icon in between the color stops. This is called the midpoint, and it changes which color dominates more of the transition. If you want one color to take over more of the gradient, move the midpoint closer to the other color. This gives you much more control over the final look. And if you want to make the gradient even more complex, you can add more colors. Just hover over the widget line until your cursor turns into a plus sign, then click to add a new color stop. From there, you can double-click that stop and choose a new color. This is a great way to create richer, more advanced gradients without needing to manually paint anything. Once you understand these basics, the gradient tool becomes incredibly versatile. You can use it for backgrounds, overlays, light effects, color transitions, UI mockups, and even subtle shading on design elements. The more you experiment with gradient type, angle, color stops, and midpoints, the more creative control you'll have. So to quickly recap, select the gradient tool with G, create a new layer, choose your preset and gradient type, Drag across the canvas to apply it, and then fine-tune everything live using the on-screen controls. That's the simplest way to start using the gradient tool in Photoshop like a pro. If this video helped you, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next Photoshop tutorial. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.